Welcome to Stockholm. Street Films is in Stockholm. I'm Gersh Kunstman, along with Clarence Eckerson. We're in Stockholm trying to capture all of the changes a city can make when it institutes congestion pricing and starts reclawing back space from cars.
So we're standing at Swedenborgsgatan in the area Södermalm in Stockholm. And this is a very popular street, and especially since 2015, where it was the first pilot of a summer street in Stockholm, and is now a very popular place to come, both for pedestrians and for cyclists. At this point we have 44 summer streets all around Stockholm. My responsibility is the space between buildings, and I focus on areas and flows. So we want to create value with the areas we have between the buildings, and we do that by making it compelling by places to sit and art or trees and greens and so on. But then we also want to make sure that the flows also work. In some months we will introduce a low emission zone, which will force the transports to become cleaner, but it also triggers the innovation and to share transportation ways and to use more last mile delivery and so on. So we try to combine those.
All right, so now we're on an interesting street here. This used to be a two-way traffic clogged street. It's a key artery, or at least it was a key artery, but now, since COVID and since congestion pricing, they've turned it into more or less a pedestrianized street, although cars are still allowed. They've widened the sidewalks, they've added in dining sheds, they've added in planters, they've added in benches, they've added in art. During the day, around lunchtime, this place is packed, and more importantly, very few cars actually come through here.
It used to be the central business district, where not so many people wanted to stay during the night, and it didn't have so many restaurants and so on. And that is the area where we're introducing this low emission zone. And as a part of that, we also want to invest in the area. We also want to widen the sidewalks and get more trees and greens, and the store owners and the restaurant owners are also very, very happy to collaborate with the city to make the area more attractive for people.
And right here is something Clarence and I noticed. We were walking with a city official yesterday, and we said, "Oh, tell us about that." He said, "Oh, that just happened today," which was yesterday. There's the old sidewalk line, and what they did is they triple widened the sidewalk by taking a lane from this once two-way street, making it a one-way street, much less traffic on it now. It's no longer a through street through a neighborhood, and now it's a neighborhood street. But look at how much more space you can have in a city when you reduce traffic by 17 to 20%, as they did here in Stockholm. This is so new, all the cement and the sand is still here, like sand's in the hourglass, and they're here right now cleaning it up, finalizing it for the people.
Jakobsgatan is one of the streets we turn into a street with more space for pedestrians and people sitting in the sun.
Now, not every street in Stockholm has been reclaimed from the automobile. Here's a kind of a before shot. You see, this is a two-way street. You got trucks and all this stuff. There's not a lot of life on that street because there's no benches, there's nothing. But Clarence, turn it around 180 degrees. This is the after shot. This is what they did up to this point. They widened the sidewalk, they added benches, you got bike parking, you got trees, you got planters. And this is what that other street that we saw that opened up just today is gonna look like in a couple of months with all these people and life. Now, of course, this guy needs no introduction to you Americans. King Gustav, of course. Now, if you look broadly at this circle, he used to be in the middle of a traffic sewer. Nobody could come and enjoy this.
Before, the spot in front of the Opera House here was a roundabout, and it was there were parkings. But together with the city and with the opera and with other real estate owners in the area, we have changed the place and made it to a nicer place. People who come to the opera and want to maybe take a glass before the show or want to go out and eat afterwards, they can feel very at home.
But all they did was they cut off one part of the circle, blocking cars from this. They added in planters, they added in benches, people are enjoying it, and now cars coming off this bridge, cars coming through the circle can't cut through here, They got rid of a parking lot in front of the Opera House, and now you can hang out with King Gustav II, you can get to know him, and just enjoy a public space that's for the public, not just for car drivers.
So I grew up in Stockholm, and then when I was a kid, not so many people used to cycle. Less than 1% of trips in Stockholm were made by bike, and now we see that 32% in the inner city use bike to and from work on a nice day during the spring.
You see behind me a bike lane that was widened because during the rush hour periods, this is crazy. That's why we had to come out during the day when it's a little calmer. This is a bike superhighway that gets people from sort of the west side of town to the south side of town through this crazy intersection that's mobbed with bikes.
And we are really trying to accommodate this increased amount of cyclists, so more people want to cycle and can feel safe when they cycle. And we do that with new infrastructure, but we're also testing new technology. For example, we have a sensor in this intersection which sort of detects how many cyclists are waiting, and then it turns it green faster to make it easier for cyclists to feel safe and also to get a good flow through the city.
Once enough cyclists end up at a red light, the red light turns green for cyclists because it gives them priority when there's a lot of them, but obviously gives other modes priority when there aren't a lot of them.
So Götgatan is one of the main streets that connects the southern suburbs to the city center of Stockholm. And there are thousands of cyclists. I think it's 15,000 cyclists going there every day to and from work. And it's also a street where we have had to widen the bike paths in steps. So we made first bike paths in one width, and then we had to expand them, and now we are starting up a project to expand them even more.
So another thing about when you take space back from car drivers, you don't have to only just give it to pedestrians or make bike lanes, you can also create bike parking and scooter parking. And all these scooters might otherwise be littering the sidewalk. Instead, they put them in the roadway where they belong, and they're where a car might have been, but now you make 10 or 12 parking spaces for bikes and scooters.
So the congestion charges who are now in place in Stockholm, that is a very interesting story in its own. The people were not very positive towards it in the beginning, but then it was a test period. And all of a sudden you could see how people realized that the transportation flows are much more efficient. People didn't necessarily stop using the car, but they used it more cleverly, and this incentive structure just made transportation work better. And that has been a success story in many ways, and also the money that you get in are then invested in projects, subways and trams and so on. Thanks to the congestion charge, we also see an increase in cycling and walking, and that in itself also creates more ways to use the area.
Well, they don't call this the Slusen for nothing. Look at the current going. And that's where I'm going to sign off. I'm Gersh Kussman for Clarence Eckerson in Street Films, live in Stockholm. Enjoy the view.